This is the vocabulary video for Intermediate German, Chapter 1, Section 1. I'm going to go over some of the vocabulary pronunciation as well as some tips for remembering things and kind of reflecting back on what we've learned before. So our first vocab phrase is I am afraid that, or ich fürchte das. Ich fürchte das. So you should remember das, and when we use a das clause, just like weil, it kicks the verb to the end conjugated. Fürchten is also a good verb to know, meaning to fear or to be afraid of. All right, next one, we are really worried about that. Das macht uns große Sorgen. Das macht uns große Sorgen. So you can always change out the uns, but keep in mind that that reflects in the English as we are really worried about that because that makes to us a lot of worry or big worries. So keep in mind that I could change that to something like das macht mir große Sorgen, and that would mean I am really worried about that. Our next one, if only we were allowed to use natural products. Wenn wir nur Naturprodukte benutzen dürften. Wenn wir nur Naturprodukte benutzen dürften. One would only have to think about it. Man müsste nur daran denken. Man müsste nur daran denken. Now, there's a couple things I'd like to point out here. First of all, daran is what we call a da compound, and it is part of a preposition. So an, an, you might recognize that. Da and an are combined. Whenever our preposition that we're combining with a da or vo compound starts with a vowel, we have to separate the two vowels, either the a from da or the o from vo, with an r. And so what that means, because an here pretty much means about, to think about, the da in this case means it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is müssen. So you should remember müssen, to have to or must. This is a different form of that than we've seen before, and we're going to get into this in a little bit and start talking about different forms of the modal verbs themselves as well as other verbs. But this is a subjunctive to form, and we'll talk more about what that means later. But pay attention to how they kind of look in these phrases. Our next word is exhaust. Das Abgas. Das Abgas. Now, if you think of gas being, any fume, and then ab meaning from, you could almost think of this very literally and understand that it's exhaust. So exhaust being fumes or gas that comes out of something or off something. Okay, the next one is das Treibgas. Das Treibgas. And that's propulsion gas. Factory, die Fabrik. Die Fabrik. Now, if we think of a factory and then look at the word Fabrik, you might notice that it kind of looks like fabricate. And when you fabricate something, that's typically done in a factory where they build things. So those two words kind of relate in that way. Carpool, die Fahrgemeinschaft. Die Fahrgemeinschaft. One thing I want to point out about this word is that it ends in schaft. Anytime you use schaft at the end of a word, it is always feminine. And it typically corresponds to the English suffix ship, as in friendship, which would be Freundschaft. Okay, our next one, car with emission control. Das Cut-Auto. Das Cut-Auto. Oil. Das Öl. Das Öl. Air pollution. Die Luftverschmutzung. Die Luftverschmutzung. Now again, this word ends in ung, and this suffix is also always feminine. So keep that in mind while you're memorizing the vocab. Hole in the ozone layer. Das Ozonloch. Das Ozonloch. Another good word to know would be das Loch, and das Loch is also hole. Okay, acid rain, der saure Regen, der saure Regen. Pollutant, der Schadstoff, der Schadstoff. The beginning of this word, schad, if you think of schade, which we learned, schade meaning a shame or something bad. So this is something negative. And if you think of it that way, pollutant makes sense. So that might help you remember it. Dirt, der Schmutz, der Schmutz. The dying of the forest, das Waldsterben, das Waldsterben. Here, remember that sterben means to die, and Wald is forest. Die Aludose, die Aludose, aluminum can. Okay, the next one, non-returnable bottle, die Einwegflasche, die Einwegflasche. Paper bag, der Papierbeutel, der Papierbeutel. Deposit-only bottle, die Pfandflasche, die Pfandflasche. Plastic bag, die Plastiktüte, die Plastiktüte. Pump spray, der Pumpzerstäuber, der Pumpzerstäuber. Dishwashing liquid, das Spülmittel, das Spülmittel. So here, spül, you might remember from last year, spülen with das Geschirr spülen, and that was to clean the dishes. Whereas down here, in our next one, we have Waschmittel from waschen, when we had die Wäsche waschen, meaning to wash the laundry. So there's two different types of soap, and that's reflected in our verbs there. So we had das Spülmittel for dishwashing liquid, and laundry soap is das Waschmittel. Courage, der Mut, der Mut. Part, der Teil, der Teil. To worry, sich Sorgen machen, sich Sorgen machen. And the sich in this phrase should be the dative case. So we saw that above in the phrase right here. Das macht uns große Sorgen. All right, so sich Sorgen machen. And now our next one is to offer, anbieten, anbieten. And anbieten is separable. To blow, blasen, blasen. To replace, ersetzen, ersetzen. To produce, herstellen, herstellen. To spring a leak, leck werden, leck werden. Werden is a good verb to know. It does mean to become. So you can think of this one as to become leaky. To sort, sortieren, sortieren. To enlarge, vergrößern, vergrößern. To poison, verpesten, verpesten. To pollute, verschmutzen, verschmutzen. Biodegradable, biologisch abbaubar, biologisch abbaubar. The suffix bar, ba, when we add that to a word, it typically corresponds with the able, able suffix in English. Exclusively, ausschließlich, ausschließlich. environmentally safe. Umweltfreundlich. Umweltfreundlich. Now this word is made up of two parts, so you should recognize freundlich as friendly, and then Umwelt, which is also a good word to know, die Umwelt, meaning the environment, and that is feminine. So Umwelt. All right, our next one is avoidable, vermeidbar. Vermeidbar. And again, that bar ending corresponds there with able. Vermeid comes from vermeiden, to avoid. Poisonous, giftig, giftig. All right, that is all of the vocabulary for Intermediate German, Chapter 1, Section 1. Thanks for watching.